quick, suck my dick. I gotta cast the spell.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cheap Smut. My name is Katie Mizell.
And my name is Carl Mizell.
And this is a podcast that is back from hiatus. Hello, my love.
Hi, honey. How are you?
I feel so much better right now.
Yeah.
Because I started saying the opening of the podcast.
I know it did. It did feel better. Our son was being a bit of a turd. He was tired. It's late. I get it.
Yeah. He got to stay up 5 minutes past his bedtime, and that makes him an actual demon. I love him so much.
Yep. And for those of you who have children in your life, not just necessarily your children, if you've ever been around small children, they play this game where it's bedtime, and they will do literally anything to distract from the actual going to the bed.
Yes.
And our son is trying to become an expert at it, but his desire to stay up late and play games contradicts my autistic need for rigor and routine, and he loses. I love him dearly, but he loses. But yes, I'm feeling great as well. It is so good to be back. Yes. We have been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes here during the hiatus. We have started our Patreon. That is going. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you are hearing this a week in advance.
What up, you? How many are there?
There are 7.
You 7 beautiful bitches.
You 7 beautiful bitches. Welcome. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, that's totally okay. You don't have to be. You're just getting this a week later.
Yeah, what's up the rest of you beautiful bitches? I'm not leaving you out.
Exactly. You are all beautiful. Just some of you are.
If you give me $1, I'll call you beautiful a week early.
Exactly. That's literally all it is. We've got some fun stuff in the works. I want to tease that we are going to have our first special co-host guest at the end of the month. We'll tell you more about that as the date approaches. I really don't know what else to say. We've just been.
I mean, you're working on new logos. We got cards, so we can do some guerrilla marketing and drop cards places. We're working on possibly a new project. Yeah. But we're not going to say anything about that until we know more.
Yeah. Oh, and how could I forget? We were invited to be guests at Sinful Signings East Coast 2024.
Hell yes. In Roanoke, Virginia.
Roanoke, Virginia, and it's September 22nd and 23rd, I believe, are the dates. But the good news is that we've got 7 months to figure it out.
Yes, yep. Sinful has never had a podcast as a guest before. We have never been a guest anywhere before. We will figure this out together.
Anywhere. We've never been a guest anywhere.
And they are
in our lives.
Such nope. I've never been a guest in anyone's home. Yep. I have never been a guest.
You are going to regret the Sinful Signings.
Yeah, no. They have been so wonderful and nice that I'm sure that it will be absolutely fine and we'll work it out and it's going to be great. Yeah. I'm really, really excited.
It's going to be so. Season 2 of Cheap Smut is going to be just so fantastic. And with all of that said, is there anything else that you would like to lay out before we get this show on the figurative road?
I don't think so, man. Let's get into it.
All right, let's do it. What do we have for everybody this week?
This week I read Initiation by Alethea Faust, which is book 1 in the Sex Wizards series. It is available for $4.99 or through Kindle Unlimited, or copies available through Alethea's website as well. I'm not going to do the usual trigger warning thing. So not the sex content. I will give you the triggers, but all the sex content is sort of laid out in the book as you come upon it. Like, it's at the top of every chapter. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to tell you what we're dealing with when we get into it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. But for our emotional well-being triggers, rape and sexual assault are key components of the conflict of this story. You can't avoid it or get around it. So take care of yourself and don't read it if you know you can't handle that. Excuse me. And for our tropes, this is a polyam book. We have never done a polyam book before. We have done many Y chooses, but the key difference between a Y choose and a polyamorous romance is that the Y choose is a closed unit.
Right.
The characters will come in and out of this story because of the way that the world is built. There's no closed unit. all the interpersonal relationships are deep and specific. It's a found family that fucks, basically. So
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of amazing, and I love it.
Plus the alliteration.
Oh yeah, a found family that fucks.
Fuck yeah.
But this is it's a magic world. It's a fantasy world, and the magic system is a sex-based magic system. So that's why. Yes. Oh, I know. It's amazing.
Man.
It's so brilliant. So that's why there can be no closed system. It's part of the magic. When you need to cast, you need to cast. Do the fucking spell, man.
I was just gonna say, quick, suck my dick. I gotta cast the spell.
Yes. Yeah. Very much.
I know I'm jumping ahead, but that's the first thing.
I mean,
I thought.
I have been eyeing this book for years. So I originally saw this book. I didn't realize right after it came out, because I got back into reading in Philadelphia during the pandemic.
Right.
And that is when the first book came out. Alethea started writing this during the pandemic, and I saw it, and I didn't read it then, and I regret it. I regret it because it took me 4 years to read it from that moment. 3 years, and 3.5 years. Yeah.
It's almost 4.
I could have had this. I could have had this series in my life for a lot longer. Is what I'm saying.
Oh my!
I regret it. I regret it.
And that is and I love that you said that, because I know I've said this before. The beauty of art, especially, is that it doesn't matter when you discover it; it's always new to you. You know what I mean? Like if you have somehow never heard the Beatles,
oh yeah,
and then the first time you hear the Beatles, it still can resonate with you. It's still new to you, and I love that feeling when you discover something like that you immediately love so much that you hate. You secretly also hate that you didn't discover it sooner.
Yeah.
Because it could have been part of your life longer.
Exactly. I regret not reading this book the very first time I saw it. But at the time, I was like, oh, it's so... Yeah, there's so much kink. I don't know how I feel about that. I was not the same person that I am now. I have lived through the monster fucker wars at this point. I have seen it all.
Dear Orpheus.
When will my wife come home from the Smut Wars?
I will clutch this comically large clone of Willie like a war bride.
Just waiting for me to come home.
What's in that comically large locked wardrobe? Don't worry about it.
Dearest Carl, I wish I could say I'm coming home to you soon, but a recent flanking of enemy fuckboys from the left has forced us back. There's no way out. We continue to clutch our Kindles in hope.
We may be outnumbered by the book boyfriends. They have a Giga Chad.
Oh, Giga Chad. Oh my God, fuck. Okay, well, we're going off the rails.
Yep.
The bit's too deep. We haven't even started the first book yet.
Look at that. Season 2 right off the bat with a wild digression.
I swear to Christ. Okay, so I also love that I didn't read this book back then in a weird way, because I got to read it for the show.
Yeah.
This book felt like the perfect book to read to start season 2, because we started season 1 with A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor, which was wild, right?
Yeah.
This one is just as wild. It feels like a fantastic spiritual successor as the opener for the the season of the show.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to tell you the story, so let's do it.
Can't wait.
So our MC, our main character through whom we will see everyone else, is named Dom. His name is Dominai, but everybody calls him Dom. The entire series is told from Dom's perspective.
Okay.
He is a former woodland guide and hunter from, Alethea, I have to know whether you did this on purpose, but I have to imagine you did, the Hoboken Mountains. And I hope that what happened is sometime a long time ago, Alethea went, Hoboken sounds like the name of a mountain range in a fantasy novel. And she kept it for years and just waited until she could put it into her book.
What it really sounds like, depending on how you emphasize it, is it sounds like a long forgotten character. Like, this is Hoboken. Oh, we don't talk about Hoboken.
Hoboken. Ooh.
I didn't see him in the Barbie movie.
Yikes. Ah, man. They let Alan in,
They let Alan in.
but not Hoboken.
They let Midge.
Midge. Ah! Oh, we just continued her. God, fuck, the Barbie movie is good. Okay, so Dom is a former woodland guide and hunter from the Hoboken Mountains, but he had to retire from that job after a bad arm break that he got while fighting a rabid wolf on the side of a cliff. Like, he fell off the side of the mountain fighting a rabid wolf.
And only broke his arm.
And only broke his arm.
Fuck yeah, Dom.
Hell yeah, Dom. So he survived the fall and he set the bone as best as he could, but his arm is no longer properly functioning and he can't string a bow or pull the bow anymore. So,
But can he still masturbate?
yes, specifically it is mentioned in the book that he retrained himself to jack off with the other arm.
Good to know.
Yes. So Dom has made his way a 4-month journey down the Hoboken Mountains and through the lower, to the Wizard's Towers at Straetham, the capital of wherever we are.
To wherever.
To wherever, yep.
to the Trenton Plains.
Yes, exactly.
Or some other
the
city.
Trenton Plains.
The Hackensack Valley. Just naming places in New Jersey now.
Just whatever the bad part of the fantasy world is just called the interstate, because the fucking interstate sucks. I hate driving in New Jersey. So colloquially, the Wizard's Towers of Straetham are called the Crux, and it's what it will be called for the rest of the book. He has come here because he was given a letter by a woman whom he had guided through part of her journey through the mountains and also had sex with while they were out there. Her name was Allisande, and she gave him a letter to come to the Crux to give to the people in charge here. He put that off because he was like, what the fuck am I going to do at the Crux? I am just a poor country bumpkin. Yeah. I'm going to continue my life in the woods until...
I am but a humble sex wizard.
Yes. 'Tis I, the humble sex wizard. Yeah, but now that he can no longer do his job, he has come to the Crux to do something.
Okay.
He gets to the drawbridge at the edge of the Crux, and he meets a beautiful woman. He gives her the letter. The letter explains that Allisande has detected magical potential in him, and so he is welcome to study at the Crux. The woman at the drawbridge takes him inside and through some beautiful gardens and around. It's a very lush and gorgeous scene. I'm not going to explain it all to you.
Point of clarification. So this woman that had led him, or he led
her through the mountains.
She gave him the letter.
Yes.
And told him to go.
And told him to go to the Crux.
To Crux.
Yes.
He fucks so good.
Yes.
That she was like, you need to go to wizard school.
That dick is magic.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Revealing.
Yeah. I said this later in my notes, but I'm going to say it now because it's really funny and I've been waiting to say it for 3 days. Dom is a sexual Mary Sue.
Okay.
He's the perfect lover. He's perfect.
Okay.
So yes, he got an invitation to Dick Wizard School. Even though he's not from a magical bloodline or royal or rich, which is where the magical bloodlines usually lie. The woman from the drawbridge leads him through the central atrium area of the Crux into a tower where she leads him to a bedroom. This is now his room. It's very plain, but it's got everything that he needs to survive. It's got a desk, it's got a bed, it's got a dresser. She gives him a fresh pair of clothes and leads him to a bath. And he's like, this is the greatest.
Yeah.
And she asks if he has had his magical assessment or not. No, he has not. She will administer that assessment to him after he's been cleaned up because he's been traveling for 4 months and he's disgusting,
right?
And all stinky. He asks what would happen if he doesn't pass the magical assessment. And she says, you can stay. We'll find something for you to do. Basically, the current monarchy is vocally anti-magic. So nobody's coming to the Crux anymore. So if he wants to stay at the Crux, they'll figure out something to do with him there.
You handy in the kitchen?
Yeah, seriously. How do you feel about cleaning or doing laundry
Are
or
you-
anything.
Are you good with computers? Anything.
Computers. God, I wish. No, this is high fantasy. There's no such thing as electricity here.
Mm-mm.
So he goes to take his bath. This bathroom will feature heavily in the series. It is a large public bathing area with several baths carved into the stone. Some are hot and some are cold. This room is for recovery as much as it is for cleanliness.
Yeah.
So they have some cold baths there as well. He briefly speaks with one other wizard who looks like he has been beaten to shit. He gets into one of the cold baths and he is absolutely like thrashed. And Dom is stuck wondering what kind of magic would be worth getting your ass kicked. Dom doesn't know anything about magic though, so he doesn't know that it's the fun kind of getting your ass kicked. So he goes to meet the woman from the drawbridge. Her name is Galiva.
Okay.
And she will be administering his assessment. She takes him to a spare room, tells him to strip down because they're going to have sex now. And he will act as a conduit as she casts a spell in the magical school of abjuration. The school of magic that blocks, banishes, or protects. Casting methods include rope bondage, domination, and submission. And that's how we find the sex content through the book.
All right.
At the top of the chapter, it just tells you what you're in for. So Dom is initially taken aback. And she's like, oh, if you don't want to or if you don't like to have sex, that's fine. We don't have to do any of this. And he's like, no, we're doing it. I just didn't expect an incredibly beautiful woman to be like, strip.
Yep. It's time for your test.
So he strips down and she has him kneel on a pillow and explains to him the most important rule of the Crux. He can say stop at any time and she will stop immediately. If anyone ignores your stop, they will be expelled from the school. No tolerance policy. Consent is at the top of the order for the Crux.
Fuck Title IX. That's what you do right
Seriously.
there. Stop.
Yep.
Sorry,
Just
didn't mean
stop.
didn't mean to get deeply political there for a
Oh,
second.
it should be that fucking easy though. Fuck Title IX actually in a lot of ways. And then so with great care and expert instruction, because she is a master. She's a master of several different schools of magic. Every master is an incredible leader in their sexual exploitation of their conduit. It is exploitation because they are actually getting energy and magic out of it, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
But it's the only word I can think of is exploitation.
Well, no, yeah, it gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
But, to exploit something,
Yeah. Exactly. But in exploiting that magic, they are all incredibly careful, lovely, wonderful, consent-seeking, instructive.
Right.
Fantastic. So she blindfolds him and then binds him in an intricate shibari until he is locked in position, kneeling on the ground with his hands locked behind his back.
Now, I know we've mentioned the word before, but for our listeners who might not know what that is, what is shibari?
Shibari is a Japanese rope tying sensual art technique. It is beautiful. It takes a long time to master. It is both an art as well as a sexual act. It's very cool.
Got it.
Yes. So continuing consent throughout, she fingers his ass, then she places a prostate massager in there, and finally she places a smooth stone cock ring around his dick.
Wow.
The whole time, there's like this sort of, he can feel the sort of like magical energy that's sort of flowing around the room, but then as soon as the cock ring is placed, it focuses on his dick, and it feels like it's like crackling, almost like there's energy.
Yikes.
He finds it a pleasant sensation. I don't know.
Feels like my dick licked a 9-volt.
Yeah, right? So at this point, he's sort of all messy, and he's tied up, and she tells him that the more energy they can build up through this play, the stronger the spell is going to be.
Okay.
So that's why she's sort of sexually torturing him. That's how I think of this every single
magical edging.
Yeah, magical edge. Well, some of it is actually like edging torture. But anyway, so she eventually, what ends up happening is she rides him until they climax together. She releases him, she checks on him, she does the aftercare and makes sure he's okay, and then she presents him with his very first spell. So those rings are what houses the spell inside of them.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey man, this thing is full of magical energy. I'm gonna put it on my dick.
Yep.
Let's see what happens.
Or up your ass, because there are bead versions. Yes.
Yes.
Isn't it fucking amazing? Isn't it so good?
And I hope that there. So does that for our folks with vaginas? Do we have like magical dildos?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
So many magical dildos.
I figured you would.
Absolutely. So these rings or beads are called focuses. They house the spell that you create while you're fucking. Wizards keep those spells around their necks on leather cords, and the more cords they have, the higher mastery they have achieved.
So you can see if somebody's wearing their necklace, you can literally tell if that guy fucks.
If someone, by virtue of wearing a necklace, that guy fucks.
Yeah.
But you can tell how good that guy is at fucking, or that person is at fucking, and the various kinds of fucking they are good at. And I wish that I could walk around with a label on myself, not necessarily to talk about how good I am at fucking, but just to be like, I don't know, like I'm sensitive and allergic to coconut oil. Like I just don't want to have to tell people these things. I want to just display them on my person.
I was going to say, they ain't made a necklace big enough for you, honey. Don't worry about it.
No, not. You're so sweet. So the spell that they have created in this assessment that they just did.
Did I pass?
Right. God, yes. Yeah, you passed. Yeah, you passed. Is a protective shield with illusory camouflage.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly what combination of things did what, but it starts to make sense as you read it. Like they do, like if they need a spell that's gonna hurt somebody, that's BDSM. Like that makes sense almost.
But the resulting spell can be potentially stronger or weaker given the performance.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
That to me is I love that because it sounds like an excellent video game mechanic where like, you know, like I love to play Slay the Spire.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Your spell's strongest if your fuck meter's full.
But no, but not just that. But what I mean is like in Slay the Spire, you can eventually, like you get new cards, but sometimes you can immediately get an upgraded version of the card. So I love that, like, oh, you can get this spell, but if you perform well during this assessment, you can actually potentially get a stronger version of it if you do this trial well. Now, I'm not saying I want to play a video game where I fucking get magical spells, but I just love the idea that, like, you could have a trial and the reward could be improved upon based on your performance. I like that.
Yeah. That's good.
It'd be like in MLB The Show, instead of getting getting a fully parallel 5'd card instead of just a basic ass card right off the bat.
Sure.
Because you did so good.
Because you did such a good job.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. Well done.
Well done. Oh, you can also, with these, you can do more than one spell at a time.
Wow.
So
yeah.
At one point, I think the most cock rings Dom has on is like 5 at once. You make 5 spells at one time.
On his dick?
On his dick.
What?
Yeah. So Dom goes to sleep. The next day, he gets up. He goes to breakfast. He meets Galiva in the mess hall again, and she tells him how the Crux works. So, like, once he's been there for a month, he'll start getting a stipend so that he can start buying his own clothes and things. But for now, they'll provide him with clothes. All the food is provided. Obviously, the board is provided. The room is provided. And then she starts teaching him about how to identify people based on the colored ribbons on their sleeves. So all wizards wear a black robe, and then they have colored ribbons that are sewn onto their sleeves down by the cuff. And those colors represent what schools of magic they have mastery in.
Yeah.
So there are, like, I think 8 total schools of magic. If you have all 8 ribbons, you are the Grand Master.
Yeah.
And it's just it's great. So Galiva has 3 already. She is a master in 3 different magic schools already. So good for her.
I would hate the cafeteria because I would just be sitting there wondering who amongst us had magical butt plugs at the time.
At the time?
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, like, everybody's had one in them.
Oh, yeah, at some point.
For sure. But at the moment,
yeah,
maybe you could just ask. I wonder.
Hey, you packing?
Just like, are you packing?
You holding?
Are you packed?
Are you holding? Do you have something up your ass at present?
Yeah. raise your hand if you're stuffed. Now raise your hand if you're double stuffed.
Oh.
Oh, good for you, Astrid. She's really popular.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So during this scene, Dom also meets a woman named Marguerite, who is a ram woman. She has like horns and like really cute ears. She looks very similar to...
I can't remember her name. Goat Girl.
Goat Girl.
Yeah, I can't remember the character's name.
I can't remember her name. Fuck. Yeah. And she is a master of divination. Dom is like, I would love to learn about divination. She's like, all right, come by tomorrow.
Right, exactly.
We'll
oh my
out.
God, the pickup lines.
Yeah, seriously. After that conversation, Galiva explains to him that he can pick any school of magic to begin trying mastery in, but until he decides, he is going to be a conduit. You know, he'll get a taste for every flavor of magic in the school if he wants to. But first, what she's going to do is take him upstairs to meet Alaric, who is the hot guy who got his ass kicked the night before that Dom met in the baths. Alaric is a master and prefers evocation, which is the school of magic that taps into and manipulates energy. Casting methods include impact play, sensation play, and pain play. Galiva then gifts Dom to Alaric, and Dom's like, I'm sorry, gifts me, but really she's just like, this is my new friend, Dom. He's real good at fucking. You want to meet him? And Alaric promises that he will be as gentle as evocation allows if Dom agrees to help them with a spell. Dom agrees to do so, and Galiva sits down to watch. Dom's arms are tied together again, but he is attached to a carabiner in the ceiling, so his arms are above his head. And while this is all happening, Dom is sort of contemplating the fact that he's not opposed to having sex with men. He just never has before. So this should be interesting. At least Ulbrich is super hot. And when Ulbrich learns that Dom has never had sex with a man before, he gets very excited. Ulbrich likey. So after the consents are all applied and comforts are given, there is spanking, flogging. A large glass bulb is placed into Dom's ass, and when activated, it feels like a mass of glass balls are rotating inside of his body, which is an incredible thought. I'd never, ever in my life.
Not the word I was thinking, but
it's so fresh and new.
I'm experiencing a sensation altogether new to me, and frankly, I like it.
Exactly. And then last but not least, Alaric places 4 focus rings on Dom's cock.
Was he
Alaric Ulbrich? Jesus, Catherine.
Was it like a ring toss?
Oh, that would be fun, but no, because they got to be pretty tight. So
that's true.
It's not going to be. Yeah. So then Ulbrich flogs Dom. Dom absolutely loves this and falls into what would be called in the kink world of our world as a subspace, which is sort of a sort of high that happens when you submit, especially in pain play because of the like adrenaline dump that happens to deal with the pain. So in our world, we would call this subspace. In this world, they call it con space or conduit space, where you get all floaty and kind of high. Dom enjoys this experience a lot. Finally, when he cannot take anymore, he finally asks, to be, please stop now. Ulbrich fucks Dom until they both finish. Then there's aftercare, and Ulbrich congratulates Dom on charging 4 focuses at once on his second day at the Crux. He has very strong magic potential, Ulbrich says. Dom then wants to know what spell they just made, so they go out into the woods. They get dressed first, and then they go out into the woods, and Ulbrich shows him how to activate. A spell works by just holding it. If you need it, it'll activate itself. So he's like, okay, hold on to this, and then he shoves him super hard, and the attack on his body activates the spell, and Ulbrich is pushed back 10 feet. So he's just pushed away. And Ulbrich is very excited to note, because he added some choking while they were fucking, he's also winded now. So if you add extra elements like airplay, you're going to get extra elements like being able to knock the breath out of an enemy.
Again.
Very interesting.
Again. Magnificent.
So cool.
I love the idea that you can just custom craft.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
Yes, it's beautiful. So then Ulbrich then gifts Dom another one of these spells as congratulations, and takes him to go get the proper aftercare that he needs after having his ass beat in the baths. And there's a lovely aftercare scene of Ulbrich rubbing him down with ointment, and they have a conversation, and their relationship is very sweet and lovey-dovey. Mm-hmm. Dom spends the rest of the evening reading books. It's not all about fucking. There is also some learning to be done, and he starts, getting into the actual, meat and potatoes of being at wizard school.
Wait, you mean it's not just all fucking? Oh, this is lame.
Yep. Oh, also at some point, Galiva did gift him with a focus that he gets to keep forever, and that protects him from all STIs.
Wow.
Just so y'all know.
Wow.
Everything is unprotected in our sense, magically protected. No pregnancies, no STIs. Fantastic.
Wow, I love it.
The next day, Dom goes for his divination training with Marguerite. Divination is the school of magic that can discern the truths of the past, present, or future. Casting methods include full sensory deprivation, body worship, and edging. So this is the coolest scene in the entire book. And if you don't read this book for anything else except for the first divination scene, please read it.
Okay.
Because this is the coolest shit I have ever seen. Okay, so the divination is interesting. They are in this dark and quiet room with these two big pillars made of that same stone, which is called Magellan, by the way. The stone is called Magellan, the white stone that keeps magic. He strips down and stands in between those two pillars, and then Marguerite guides a slowly moving magical silver mist up his body. To him, it feels like a liquid. It coats his body very lightly in a sort of glittering silver sheen, but once it touches him, he cannot move anymore. It goes all the way up his body until it covers his entire body, his head, his face. He can breathe, but he can't make any sound, and he can barely hear. He can't see. And it's like he's floating in space. The only thing that is keeping him from completely losing all touch with reality is Marguerite touching his arm. And what eventually ends up happening over the course of her training him in the next couple of hours is he spends first 5 minutes and then 15 minutes and then an entire hour encased inside of this. It's like floating in a sensory deprivation tank for an hour. Except there's a woman edging you the entire time.
I was waiting for the hook.
Yeah, right?
Because right now it sounds horrific.
It sounds
to me.
wild and horrific. And yes, it's not, they say it several times in the book even, it's not a school of magic everybody wants to get involved in because it's terrifying. Galiva originally wanted to be a divination caster, and she can't do it. She has panic attacks when she gets into the silver. Makes perfect sense. But Dom, like I said, he's a sexual Mary Sue. He can handle anything. So an entire hour, he goes completely insane inside of the silver. There's, sucking and fucking and ass play and just shit goes nuts for an hour. And then finally, he gets to come. And when he does, he has a full-on vision inside of the silver. So the divination worked. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
He sees Allisande in chains being held captive. When he comes out of the silver, Marguerite checks in with him. He tells her that he saw something. She tries to do some aftercare, but he's like, no, I need to tell you what happened. When she hears it, they immediately go to meet Grandmaster Arlen, who is the Grand Master of Wizardry. He is in charge of the entire Crux, and he has been given power by the king over all matters regarding wizardry. He is the highest power there is in the wizarding world. His name is Arlen. He's a nice dude. He's a big fucking bear. He's a big beefy guy. Arlen explains to Dom that masters have been going missing while out of the Crux on missions, and they have been entirely unsuccessful in tracking any of them down. What Dom saw in the silver is the first thing that they have been able to find in almost a year of wizards going missing. And they theorize that it's because Allisande went missing shortly after she left Dom, so he was probably the last person to have sex with her. So he has that connection to her. So now they're going to start pulling all of the other wizards who may have been the last partners of the missing wizards to get more clues.
Okay.
Marguerite leaves to start that plan. Arlen and Dom then have a conversation. Arlen tells Dom that he's impressed with him. He's only been there for 2 days and he's already cast 3 spells and like
I hear you're quite
wild.
Promising.
Yeah. But then he tells Dom to pull back a little, because new adepts can get a little too excitable. They can end up hurting themselves. They can end up saying yes to things that they wouldn't because they're too excited about all the new stuff. Yeah. Dom gets a little cocky and is like, I think I can handle it. Arlen puts a cock cage on him instead.
All right.
This is the one time in the book where I was like, excuse me, consent? You did not ask to put the cock cage on him.
Yeah.
But of course, I do know that if Dom had said, take that off of me, it would have come off of him.
Right.
So, okay. Arlen is now teaching Dom about conjuration, the school of magic that creates matter out of thin air. Casting methods include periods of chastity followed by masturbation. Dom will now be in the cock cage for 5 days.
Ew.
Yeah. He's not allowed to do anything. It prevents him from getting an erection, obviously, so he can't do anything.
That's upsetting.
Yeah. But don't worry, Arlen says, don't worry, because it's a really, really great once you're done.
Yeah.
Like, it's worth it. So the next day, Dom talks with Galiva about his week traveling with Allisande and realizes something that he did not know to look for previously. And that is that when he knew Allisande, she did not have her wizard's necklace on her. Somebody must have stolen it from her because there's no other reason why she would take it off while traveling. Mm-hmm. So now they have the possible information that someone is stealing magic from wizards. Galiva then invites Dom to observe and assist on a spell that she is working on with Ulbrich. And this was absolutely fucking wild. Okay, so she put Ulbrich on top of 2 stacks of wooden boards, 5 deep. Mm-hmm. So he was up off of the ground about a foot or so. Then she tied him up like really intricately to the ceiling and hung him from the ceiling. And then she stuck a dildo on a metal rod just under his ass. So he was like just sat on top of it.
Yeah.
And then she beat the shit out of him with a cane. And every time he flinched or tried to move, she would take blocks out from under him until he was hanging from the ceiling with the dildo up his ass.
It's like it's like the dildo of Damocles. I think I'm using that right.
The dildo of Damocles is the funniest thing you've ever fucking said.
Thank you.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's the right way that you're using it.
Well, no, I mean the sword of Damocles. It's this thing that's constantly hanging over your head.
Yeah.
So
the dildo of Damocles is something that's constantly pushing into your ass.
Something that's constantly under your ass. It's
yeah,
like
okay. In theory, it's the same sort of function. Yeah. Okay. I get it.
Now, look. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody who knows this better than I do. But if nothing else, it got a great laugh from my wife.
It was very, very good. Anyway, once they finished this dildo of Damocles sex act, they now have 5 high-powered containment spells with built-in interrogation torture magic. So all this getting your ass beat with the Damocles dildo, there's a good reason for it. But also, Ulbrich loves getting his ass beat. So
yeah,
he's here for a good time. Afterward, Dom is the one to provide aftercare to Ulbrich, and they spend some time together in the baths, including a really fantastic kiss. And they're building a relationship outside of what they do for magic. The next day, Dom, Gal, Ulbrich, and a new friend named Kenkasi all go to town for a drink. Kenkasi is a mave, which in this world seems to be a bit like a fairy. Ethereally beautiful, tall, slender, entirely androgenic, and intersex with both sets of genitalia.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, Maeve.
Their name is Kenkasi.
Oh, that Kenkasi is a Maeve.
Yes, they are a Maeve.
They are a Maeve. Thank you.
Yeah.
The name Maeve is a name, and I got confused. Kenkasi.
Yes. They are fantastic. I love them very much because they have this incredibly droll and dry sense of humor. Nobody understands them quite right because they're they're fae, they come from the islands and they're all beautiful and strange. I love Kinkasi. Kinkasi is coming out to drink because they are celebrating their mastery that they were just awarded in Transfiguration. Good for you, Kinkasi. We'll talk about Transfiguration more later.
I'm sure we will.
At the end of the night, Dom and Ulbrich have this really cute, sweet, like snuggly, drunken scene where Dom's just trying to get Ulbrich into bed. It was very, very cute. Just to go to sleep that time. Like, go to sleep, Ulbrich. Go to sleep. 5 days later, conjuration celibacy is finally done. Dom gets up, goes to breakfast, and then immediately goes to Arlen's office. Get this fucking thing off of me. And it's time for the brown chickens and brown cows. The Arlen fucks the absolute shit out of Dom until he is satisfied, but it's like slow and torturous. Arlen is an incredibly methodical person.
Okay.
And he's sort of cold and distant. Not because he's cruel. That's just his personality.
Mm-hmm.
So he fucks like a machine. And Dom isn't entirely sure that he can take it until finally the cage does come off. Arlen places 4 anal bead focuses into Dom's ass. Dom jacks it. They pull them out. And after he comes down, like, he's like, you were absolutely right. That was totally worth it. That was amazing. Mm-mm. And Arlen makes sure that he is okay. All Dom wants to know is what the fuck kind of spell they just made. So they go out to the fields. Arlen hands him the spell and says activate it, and he gets his familiar. Dom just cast his familiar. And on the first try, too. Very good job. So his familiar is an ethereal giant wolf, the spirit of the exact wolf that almost killed him, that he had to kill in order to survive, is now his familiar. Except she is now healthy and well because she's no longer rabid.
Oh, good.
And they have a lovely relationship, him and his ghost dog.
Great movie.
Yeah. It is a good movie. This now concludes Dominai's first week at the Crux, and he falls asleep with his magical wolf at his feet. The next day, Galiva offers to try and fix his bad arm after hearing the stork from Ulbrich. Everybody in the Crux is a horrible gossip. Don't tell them anything you don't want everyone to know. Because Dom told Ulbrich, and Galiva knew the next day.
Of course.
So she can fix him, but to do that, she needs to do direct-to-body corpomancy, which is the school of magic that controls the forces of life, death, and healing. Casting methods include piercing and blood play.
Aww.
This is not a sexual scene. As Galiva points out in the scene, most people can't get it up while you're hurting them. Not like that. But there is a certain kind of subspace or con space that you can get into while someone is, to the best of their ability, caring for you while like methodically hurting you. And that's what happens. So she places 20 very large sort of acupuncture-y sounding needles down his arm, and then suddenly he feels incredibly warm and there is no pain, but he hears a harsh crack. Everything extends, the muscles release, and he is well again. She fixes him.
Well.
Absolutely. Then he goes out to restring his bow and is ecstatic to learn that he still has incredible aim. So he goes out and he shoots a shit ton of arrows into a tree all day until he's like, fuck yes, a thing I know I can do for sure.
Right.
And then Ulbrich comes out to see him. They spend some time together. This scene was very sweet. It was very emotional. It's not all about sex at the Crux, but also it is because they do fuck in the field.
Yeah, I was
It's
gonna
just
say.
not all about magic sex.
Yeah.
This was just interpersonal, sweet,
Yeah.
emotional sex.
I hope they carry like field wipes or something while they're out there.
I know,
like,
right?
like we've been out here for 3
Something.
weeks and now we need a new spell. But
Something. I
we
think
are
in
ripe.
that scene, Ulbrich uses a conjuration just to get lube.
Yeah.
So there has to be something. Afterward, Ulbrich gets up and gets himself all ready to go and says goodbye to Dom because he is off on a mission. He is going to guard a local gold mine that's been having some problems. And then Dom spends a morning with Kinkasi learning about transmutation magic, the school of magic that transforms and modifies matter. Casting methods include objectification and role play. Have you ever heard of pony play, Carl?
I certainly have not.
All right. So pony play is exactly what it sounds like, probably. It is a kink wherein a person dresses as a horse.
Oh, I thought it would be more clever than that, but there you go. Sometimes
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, let me find you a picture of when I say dresses as a horse. I want you to know what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean,
They're obviously not wearing like half of a horse costume.
no, they're probably just wearing one of those weird, like horse masks, like Buckets the drummer, or like every frat boy from like 2008 to 2015.
Ah.
Or my cousin who used to live with us who just liked to wear it to upset me.
Okay, so here is a leather pony play horse mask.
Oh, okay.
It's intricate,
Yeah.
bespoke horse accessories for people.
Yeah.
So what Kinkasi does is puts him in a specialized saddle, specialized shoes, a bit and bridle, and a butt plug with a horse tail.
Pin the tail on the magic student.
On the conduit.
On the
Or
conduit.
the adept.
Adept. That was the word I was
Pin the
looking
tail
for.
on the adept. Yep. So Dom, like I said, being the sexual Mary Sue that he is, finds the pony play is pretty great. He takes to it pretty well, and he spends the morning hornily being walked around the courtyard on a long lead and being hooked up to a cart and walking through the woods.
Being fed oats and sugar cubes.
After they're done and Kinkasi leads him back into the courtyard, they take off his saddle and all of his equipment. They wipe him down exactly as you would with a horse. You have to take care of them.
Yep.
And then they fuck. They absolutely fuck. They have to fuck.
I was going to say, at that point, I feel like I did all this work.
Yeah, for sure. So this is the scene where Dom gets 5 focuses on his dick, and he fucks Kinkasi, and he loses one of them in their vagina. So then he has to flip them over and finger them, but it's too high up there. So then he has to start jacking their dick at the same time until he can get them to come again, so that it'll come back to. Obviously, this was just to get the focus. It was not because we wanted to make our partner come some more.
Absolutely not.
We just needed to get the focus back.
I'm
for sure.
All business.
Yeah, absolutely. And when they're all done, they have 5 spells. What do? I don't know. I don't learn what that one does. But Kinkasi was talking about how their transfiguration mastery they did by making a spell that could give someone the strength of a draft horse, by making Arlen do the same as they did with Arlen was their conduit. To become a master, you have to
fuck the master.
You have to cast with the grandmaster.
Yeah. That's what I've been telling you all these years.
I'm sorry, are you the grand master in this situation?
No.
Okay.
I didn't say that.
Good. I was about to be like, no, we don't get to assign like grand master and master to ourselves in the bedroom. We are equals.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
No.
Cool. I almost got real defensive.
Almost. I'm thinking about editing this all out. And by all of it, I mean the whole episode.
The whole episode. We'll start over.
Yeah.
So anyway, the next day, Dom and Galiva are talking about how they still haven't had any luck with the divination, finding the other missing wizards because nobody can handle being inside the silver. Galiva says she wishes that she could. She tried, but she still can't. And part of it is because she has some bad blood with Marguerite, and part of it is because she's terrified of the silver. Mm-hmm. So Dom offers to guide her. He says, what if I'm the one who puts you in the silver instead? I know I've only been here for 2 weeks.
Galiva in the silver?
Yes, put Galiva in the silver.
Right.
If Marguerite is there to supervise, then it is fully acceptable for them to do it. So they go up. They argue with Marguerite because she's a little too, she doesn't want to give it up. She wants to be the one to find the solution. Yeah. But eventually, Dom does get Galiva into the silver, helps her, comforts her, guides her through it for the first 5 minutes and then 10 minutes. And eventually, the entire hour, he edges the absolute fuck out of this poor woman until she has a vision. Good for them.
Yeah.
And Galiva overcomes her terrifying fear of the silver. And she gives Dom all of the credit for that because he was kind enough to guide her. And when Marguerite gives him a lot of credit for that, he's like, well, I just did the exact same thing that you did to me. Mm-hmm. You were very kind and gentle. It's not that hard to be good to people. See? It's not that hard to be good to people. You know what I'm saying?
It really
Jesus
isn't.
Christ. Jesus Christ. But in exchange for giving up control of her divination room so that Dom and Galiva could try this, now Dom has to go into the Silver next. He has agreed. He goes in, and they both take turns edging the absolute fuck out of him for an hour. This scene includes a really entertaining use of the silver, because when you use the silver, like if you lift someone's arm up, it'll just stay there.
Yeah.
If you move a body part, it'll just stay there.
Yeah.
So they fuck him with a giant butt plug, and when they pull it out, he's just gaped.
Yeah.
And he continues to be gaped.
Ooh.
I'm not into gaping, but there was gaping in this scene. Enjoy
Cheap
if you're
smut,
into that.
A cheap smut first.
The cheap smut first, gaping. I dropped my phone.
Oh, no. I will, as your producer, I will bend over and pick it up and produce it for you.
Oh, thank you so much. Now I've lost all of my notes, and I have to scroll back down to where they are.
Himbo Jones being such a boy. Such a boy.
Okay, here we go. So this scene includes gaping, suspension. So, like, at one point they bend him over, and he's like only being held up by like on a foot, and he literally feels like he's being suspended. It's like I felt like I could call it quote unquote suspension. It would be similar in terms of physical sensation. When they are finished with all of this, Dom has a vision of Ulbrich being attacked, his necklace stolen from him, and then Ulbrich being kidnapped. He sees one attacker who refers to the other by name, and now they have more information. Gal then shares the vision that she had while she was in the Silver. Wizards are being held, tortured, and raped. Power is being stolen from them against their will.
Yeesh.
Yeah. So they go to Arlen with all of this information. When Dom says the name Diren out loud, which is the name of the attacker that was not seen, suddenly they know what's going on. Diren is a former adept of the Crux who was expelled for blatantly ignoring a stop, and he's a piece of shit. So now they know what they're dealing with. They're dealing with a rapist who wants power. That's terrible, but easily killed in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
One hopes. So Arlen then declares that they are going to Ulbrich's last known location. They are going to begin their search from there. Dom is told to stay home at the Crux because he's just an adept and he's only been there for like 2 weeks. But he argues, no, because what you're doing is you're going up into the Hoboken Mountains, and I know that place better than anybody. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going and you're taking me as a guide, yes, they agree. They will leave in the morning. Gal and Dom spend the night snuggling. Just because they're sad and they need comfort, and so you snug.
Yeah.
Never underestimate the power of a good snug if you're the kind of person who likes snugs. The next morning, the retinue leaves. It is all of the wizards that we have met in the book so far, plus a few we haven't met yet, and all of Kankasi's most beautiful horses, because in addition to making horse people, they also breed beautiful horses. The Maeve are horse people. They breed horses. They ride for 3 days. Dom gets to know his fellow travelers, but he specifically avoids getting to know an orc master named Garrett, purely out of bias, because he might be a sexual Mary Sue, but he's not an actual Mary Sue.
Yeah.
Dom has his own biases that he has to get over, and being from the Hoboken Mountains, he has been taught his whole life to fear the orcs of the higher plains. On the third night, just as they are about to enter what they are considering close to enemy territory, or Ulbrich's last known location, Arlen asks everybody to give up any illusory magic, anything they have that will keep them unseen and unheard overnight, and they don't have enough magic. So fuck it, they're gonna have to cast on the road.
Road orgy.
So they are going to need 2 conduits this time to make sure they have strong enough magic. To hide, I think it's 8 humans and their horses and all their shit.
Everybody knows that for a spell like that, you gotta have 2 conduits.
You gotta have 2 conduits. So Dom volunteers, as does Garrett, the orc. They will be conduits for both abjuration, which is the binding and rope play, and illusion, the school of magic that controls and manipulates the senses. Casting methods include sensory play and sensory deprivation. So the 2 of them are tied together chest to chest. Although they can move independently. Their hands are sort of tied together up above them, but they can be moved independently because at one point they're like lying, they're like bent over next to each other, being fucked like a big H. Like that shit was crazy.
I was hoping that part of the illusion would be that you had to masturbate after you sat on your hand for 30 minutes. So it felt like it was somebody else's hand.
So yeah, that's really funny. I like that a lot, but no, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, it's not that interesting.
No, but it's funny.
Yeah.
Maybe for like unseen servant.
Unseen servant, yeah. Or that, or just like, a hazing gag.
You just have to sit on your hand
Yeah,
and jack off.
Yeah, this one seems really weird, you guys. Everything else is like, here, get into this weird mist that's actually a liquid and, leaves your asshole open if we stick something in it.
This is just jacking off with pins and needles.
Sit on your hand for 30 minutes and then try to jack off. And I don't know, you like your hand, like you can't control it. It's like this dead fish. So you're using the other hand to like push it against it.
I never even thought of that, but you're absolutely right. Your hand wouldn't work right.
No, it wouldn't.
Fucking hilarious. Okay, so the two men are tied together, and then their mouths are muffled and gagged with like those giant like leather strap gags that go across your whole face. Yep. They have 4 focuses each on their cocks, and then they are passed around.
Oh boy.
Every single person in the party gets involved in this because apparently the stronger it'll be stronger magic if more of them get involved. Sure,
yeah.
Yes, why not? So they are, like I said, they are passed around. Dom loses track of exactly who fucks him, but he for sure knows that Kinkasi fucks him, Galiva fucks him with a magical strap on, and also another wizard that he met but hasn't met yet named Thaddeus. By the end of all of this, all he has is Garrett to hold on to, as 5 more beads are put into his ass as well, and everything basically explodes. But by the time they are all done, they have all the spells they're ever going to need, and Dom and Garrett now have a unique bond.
Yeah.
That's how you beat racism, guys.
Fucking what?
This was all a metaphor for racism. Dom was racist to the orc. All he had to do was get involved in a massive orgy with the orc until all that he could do to hang on to his reality while he was being fucked 6 ways to Sunday was...
We're not so different after all.
Was lean on the one guy that he had a bias against.
Wow.
That's how you beat racism. That, and after they're done and they're like sitting around the fire while the rest of the wizards are cleaning up and stuff, the Garrett is like, hey, do you know why you hate orcs? Has anyone ever like given you the history on that? And Dom's like, no. And Garrett says, yeah, that's because humans forced all of the orcs out of the Hoboken Mountains. And then when we tried to take our land back, we were called the aggressors. And so eventually we just left. Yeah. So congratulations. It's just racism.
I was going to say, Dom's been watching high fantasy Fox News.
Seriously.
Getting bad information about orcs.
That's how you beat racism. I mean, basic information and fucking.
Okay.
Oh my god. Dom, you hear about Dom? Yeah, he went away to the Crux and he came back all woke.
Another woke indoctrination college. You hear Dom doesn't hate orcs anymore? What the fuck's up with that?
That's what happens when you go down to Straetham. They just fuck everybody's asses until they're all woke.
I'd be a lot of things after getting
your ass fucked?
Getting my ass fucked, but I don't know. Well, no, I guess woke.
Maybe woke is one of them.
I mean, I'm pretty woke to begin with, but
yeah, maybe. All right, so they finish all of this. Dom and Garrett have healed the rift. They're friends now. It's cool. The next day, they get near the mine and they find the site where the original attack happened, the attack from Dom's vision. And several of the miners are cleaning that up. They fill in some of the gaps in terms of what's happening and the timeline for the attacks and the thefts that have been happening at the mine. The wizards are like, why are people attacking you for gold? And the miners say it's not gold, it's this shit. It is the white stone, previously thought to only exist in Straetham at the Crux, where a very large natural formation of it was carved into the high tower of the Crux. Nobody else has this stuff. They found some. So now they are being robbed and attacked by rogue wizards who want access to what, again, I said earlier is called Magdalene. So this is now an extra big problem, because before they thought, oh, well, rogue wizards or not, they only have so many focuses that they have stolen from the missing masters. No, they have as much access as they need to at least a cart full of the stuff. This is a real problem. So Arlen, as the Grand Master of the Crux, seizes control of the mine and orders it sealed so that they now have control over the seam of Magdalene. He also pays all of the remaining miners like triple to go away. And they're so happy with that, obviously. You mean I don't have to go underground and dig for gold in the dark and the cold and the dangerous?
Oh, no.
Thanks, buddy. Bye. After they conclude everything with the mine and they get all the information that they can about Ulbrich and the other rogue wizards, it's time to start tracking. So Dom finds the original attack site and as their guide and resident hunter, and also Garrett, who's an orc, so is also from the Hoboken area. They start making their way tracking through the woods. They track for like 2 days. It's really slow going. Dom makes a couple of mistakes. He starts feeling really down about himself. And eventually they reach a slab of limestone that is like a mile long. They can't possibly track footprints over it. So he thinks they're fucked until he remembers, oh shit, I have a spiritual wolf at my disposal at all times. So he manifests his familiar and has her track Ulbrich by scent. They continue to track all the way to the mouth of a cave where the rogues have been hiding, and they find the woman from Dom's vision waiting outside. She's guarding the place. She says she's a mercenary. She was hired to do a job. She's already been paid. So 3 of the wizards aren't inside right now. They're gone. There's only 2 left. If you want to get your people back, now's the time. I just don't want to die. So go. So they tie her up, leave her with the horses, go in. But before they can go into the cave, Arlen tells Dom, this is where you stop. Like, you're not here as a wizard, so you can't go inside the dangerous place.
Guide.
Yeah. So he has Dom turn on an illusory force field or shield that makes him invisible, and he tells him to stand outside of the cave and wait. Dom trains an arrow on the cave and waits for a very long time, but then nobody comes out. He's starting to get a little worried, and then he hears the other 3 wizards coming up the side of the mountain, and they have another captive with them. While he's watching them, trying to decide whether or not he should try to rescue this captive or take these wizards out before they ever even get into the cave or what, one of those wizards notices all of the footprints from the retinue, because in all of their tracking, they never really thought to cover their own tracks. Oops.
Rookie mistake.
So they leave their captive outside, like in a magical cage, and they go inside, and Dom follows. He loses track of them inside of the cave tunnels, but eventually he finds the room where all of the missing masters are being held. He finds Allisande and 3 others chained up, but there are 5 total, and Ulbrich is the only one that isn't in the room. He finds him even further into that room. There is another passage beyond where Ulbrich is chained to the floor, and he is being beaten, and he is about to be assaulted by one of the rogue wizards. He's begging for him to stop, and he won't. So Dom shoots him in the eye with an arrow and saves Ulbrich's life. He then gets Ulbrich out of that room and back to the rest of the missing masters. He is now visible, so all of them are like, holy shit, we didn't see you come in.
Been here the whole time.
Yeah. And he leaves Ulbrich with them, promising that he will come back and release them all, but he has to go find the rest of the retinue. And let them know that he has found the missing wizards. He goes to continue to search for his friends, and he finds them. They have been outflanked. They're in the center of the central cave structure, and Deerin, like the main bad guy, is off to one side. Two of his henchmen are off to the other side. They're bringing rubble down on everybody's heads. Most of them are very badly injured. So they're fucked. Deerin is holding up this incredibly thick, impenetrable magic shield, but it only covers the front of his body, and Dom came in from the back. So he fires an arrow into Deerin's shoulder, which effectively distracts him enough that his shield breaks. He turns, and everybody for 1 second thinks Dom's going to die because he's reaching for something and that he's going to kill Dom now. But instead he chooses to run. He teleports away. They get the rest of the master, or they get the other two rogues that are still alive and tie them up, treat everybody's wounds. They go, they get the missing wizards, they leave, and they start their journey back home. The mercenary is gone, though. She cut her way out. She was never going to stay. They make their way all the way home. It is a 2-week-long trip because they have so many extra wizards. They don't have enough supplies, so by the very end of it, Dom is hunting for all of their food. It is a really rough road. But eventually they get back to the Crux, and they receive a hero's welcome. Dom especially is considered the hero of the hour because without him, none of this would have happened. Everyone is well received. All of the missing wizards go to their little found family units. They go to infirmary if they need to. Kankasi is very injured, so they go to infirmary and they spend several days there getting healed up from a really bad injury. And Dom goes to just sort of slink away, but Arlen catches him and says, "Hey, you are amazing. I know you've only been in the Crux for a month, but considering that your work in divination is the only thing that got these missing wizards home, I am awarding you your mastery in divination today." He has now broken the record for fastest mastery. He's been there a month, and he's now a mastery of divination.
Jeez Louise.
Fantastic. Good job, Dom. But it's not over yet because Dom also disobeyed a direct order when he went inside of the cave. And while it was the right thing to do, Arlen still doesn't like being disobeyed. He's the Grand Master, after all. So Dom's got to be punished. And his punishment is that he is going to be made a target. To be made a target means that until Arlen says otherwise, Dom is going to be wearing red robes, and any wizard in the Crux can use him as a conduit whenever they want. Obviously, the stop will always apply, but you could just be walking down the hallway, and somebody could just be like, "Get on your knees. It's time to do some illusion magic." Fucking crazy. So Dom is a little bit excited because he hasn't had sex in 2 weeks since they left the longer even. Well, no, because he got passed around on the third night, so it's been at least 2 weeks, and he's like, "I need to get laid," and then he spends the next 2 weeks not getting laid because wizards in the Crux will just grab him and tease him and kiss him and touch his junk. And at one night, Allisande and Marguerite, who are a very close couple, come into his bedroom to edge the fuck out of him, but he does not get any for 2 weeks.
Ew.
And he is losing his mind until eventually one morning after breakfast in the mess hall, there's an orgy. That's how we end this book.
Well,
with an orgy. Because Dom still has one school of magic.
Sploshing?
That he hasn't learned yet. Splashing? No. They are going to be casting enchantment with this elaborate gangbang, which is how it was described in the book.
Okay.
As an elaborate gangbang, which they organized because they love Dom so much, because he's so great. They were like, we wouldn't have organized the elaborate gangbang if you weren't the best, Dom.
we would.
What a nice thing to say.
We wouldn't organize the elaborate gangbang if we didn't like you.
Exactly. Do you guys like me? But
Yeah,
do you like really like me? How many times do I have to sit on your face, Dominai?
Didn't I sit on your face and tell you this whole orgy was for you, Dom?
Seriously.
Well,
Anyway, so this orgy, they are casting enchantment, the school of magic that can entrance and beguile others. Casting methods include humiliation, degradation, and other forms of mental manipulation. So 2 weeks of being constantly teased, and then a sudden orgy. They're going to be producing several. I can't remember what the spell was. It was like a surprise spell, like a take you by shock, like a shock spell.
it's like a flash mob that
Seriously.
just kept going.
Yeah. So by the time they are all done, every single person that Dom knows in this institution has had a go at him.
Yeah.
He is used, abused, spent, face fucked, face sat. Think of a thing you can do to a person consensually.
Yeah.
And it got done to Dom. And when they are all done, Gal and Ulbrich carry him to the baths because he's completely like he's not mentally there anymore. He is deep in con space. But they take him down to the baths. They do all of their aftercare. They wash him. They tell him how wonderful he is and what a great job he did. They praised him for his incredible work. And they all lived hornily ever after. The end. That is the first book in the Sex Wizard series by Alethea Faust.
Where do you go from there?
The second book is about Dom learning casting.
Oh,
so the first book was him as a conduit. The second book is all about him learning casting. So, and the third book is I think it's called Championship. So, God, I hope it's like Fuck Olympics. I really hope it's like Fuck Olympics. Because that's amazing. I hope it's like the Tri-Wizard tournament, but for porn.
Sport fucking.
Sport fucking.
Well,
absolutely. So that was initiation, babe.
Unfucking believable. And
seriously.
what a goddamn way to bring back.
I don't even. It felt like it got a little. Like it started, like the energy started to die at the end there, but I think it's maybe just me because I'm tired.
Oh no, there were a couple times where I was spacing the absolute hell out.
When I looked over to you like 5 minutes ago, you were sleeping.
Yeah. No, I am gassed.
Yeah, we are so tired, but we did have like a long day. Like my parents came over and we went out to dinner as a family. Taking 2 children to a restaurant, it's a lot.
Yeah, no, I am done. So, because we have to extend the ending a little bit now of the show, what are we reading next week?
Next week, I am reading By the Horns by Gemma Croft. Do you remember in Rook's Grave when I promised you that I would read you a Minotaur book?
Yes.
I'm going to read you a Minotaur book next week, baby.
Oh, boy. Actually, you asked me, I edited this part out. You asked me if we were going to do What Are You Into? This episode ran long. So
yes.
I think we're going to punt on this one for now because we've got a lot of stuff to cover. And with that said, you can find us on social media. We are on Instagram and TikTok at Cheap Smut. If you would like to send us an email, you may do so, cheapsmutpod@gmail.com. The music that you hear in this and every episode is called Nostalgia by Mackay Beats. You can find it along with thousands of other songs free of charge for you to use at the Free Music Archive, freemusicarchive.org. You can go to our link tree, which you can find on our Instagram page. And at the top link is always going to be the book of the week. It is not an affiliate link. We do not get any money for this. We're just trying to help the authors out. I don't remember how to do this outro, but I'm just going to wedge this in now because we would like to thank all of our Patreon supporters: Tia Esk, Rob Gatika, Angela McNichols, Katie Hurd, Gwendolyn Harper, Seneca O, and Rebecca K. And if you would like to join that list of people, you could do so by supporting us on Patreon. All we ever ask for you is $1. That is all we ever ask for because, it's cheap smut. So there you go. I'm going to have to go back and re-listen to some old episodes to make sure I didn't miss anything on the outro. But with that said, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you so much for taking me on that journey. That was bug fucking insane, and I loved it.
Yes, it was every second of it. It was fantastic. I'm so glad to be back to doing this show, man.
Me too.
I'm so glad to be back to reading these wild fucking books.
Oh, there was a moment there I was like, are we ready? We're ready.
We're so ready.
Now I'm ready to go to bed.
Hell yes. I'm so tired. Listener, if there is a book in you, write it. And if there's fucking in it, I'll read it.
And then she will come on this show and explain it to me for your entertainment.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.